great honor and pleasure to welcome back to our campus Toby Shriver. Toby Shriver is a master potter who became fascinated with the construction techniques used by the potters who created the classic Greek vases. An art graduate of Cornell College with a major in ceramics, she spent years creating and selling her pottery. In the mid-1970s, after the Getty Museum had been built only a few miles from her seaside studio in Malibu, California, she became associated with the museum as a gallery teacher, and she had the opportunity to see and examine the museum's collection of Greek vases and their fragments. She just finished drawing all their craters for an upcoming publication, so she retains that relationship very close. She soon realized that there was a need for a seasoned potter to analyze systematically the construction techniques used in the creation of these magnificent pieces. The result was a book entitled Athenian Vase Construction, published by the Getty Museum in 1999, which has been critically acclaimed. Besides the formal biography, Toby has given her expertise selflessly to all generations of archaeologists. She has visited Greece once, and she's bringing a little bit of Greek clay, and she has also brought a couple of ceramics, some of them fired in the Greek kiln. For those of you in the first session, she attended quite a few of the construction sessions of the kiln and the firing sessions. She has been a great mentor to many of us, and it is a great pleasure to welcome her today to Tucson.
I would like to read a few laudatory words that have been written about Greek vases. Why isn't it coming on? There it is. Oh, wait.
Yeah, you just press once and it will connect.
Okay. Greek vases are some of the most beautifully crafted in the world. They are of the highest excellence, prized possessions of museums, universities, and collectors throughout the world. Their proportions are pleasing to the eye. They are exquisitely potted, a triumph of the potter's art. Now, such remarks of these could never have been made were it not for the very rich red clay soil on which Athens and surrounding environs are made. So let's take a look at the clay. The clay is rather unique in that it can be used just as it comes from the ground and does not have to have any other clays or other ingredients mixed with it, such as sand or grog, which is finely ground up fired clay. Many clays need added temper in order to make them into a workable body. But once Greek clay is mined, it only has to be washed in order to get rid of the pebbles and any other matter like sticks or leaves. Greek clay, both modern and ancient, is strong, it's plastic, it's plentiful, it has good porosity, and it's a very, very fine, natural grained clay. There's a little vase over here that Eleni mentioned, and it came from the Greek soil, not from a Greek clay place. And I was given the soil once some kind of a train track was being built, and I took it home and washed it the way the Greeks do, and made this little vase on the wheel, took it over to Eleni and had it fired in the Greek kiln. It's just as smooth as silk. It's a beautiful piece, so please handle the pieces that you see down there. Now you're familiar with this Corinthian Pentax, which shows a clay pit, a potter or a digger digging the clay on the far side, somebody with a basket on the bottom picking it up and handling it to somebody up on the top. Okay. The clay is brought from the clay pit and it's piled at the potter's shop along with scrap clay, which is reusable. This slide is from a modern potter's shop in Anthropology, where the proprietor still uses the ancient method of cleansing the clay. Shops like this are few and far between. So, what is the cleansing process? Well, the first step in the cleansing process is to shovel the dry clay into a deep tub called a karuta, and this is where it is washed with plenty of water. You can see an impeller down there at the base that stirs up the water and the clay. This allows the stones to sink to the bottom and the leaves and the sticks to float up to the top, where they are finally skimmed off. From the karuta, the clay water mixture is pumped into a basin where it is allowed to settle out more. And then finally, it is pumped into shallow bins where excess water evaporates. Now, the clay has been removed from the very bottom portion. It is still drying in that middle bin, and the farthest bin, the clay has been cut into 12-inch squares, and some of them have already been removed to a storage area where it will age before it is ready to be used. With few exceptions, Greek clays were thrown on the potter's wheel. And there are 4 main steps. All of you potters know what they are. You center the clay on the rotating wheel on the first step. The second one is you put your thumbs down in, or else fist if it's a very large piece of clay. And the third step is to pull it up into a cylinder. And you note there's a little arrow up at the top. And in general, when pieces are pulled up, a thickening portion is left at the top. It's a sort of a bulge, and it's there for 2 purposes. One, it gives stability to the cylinder, but it also allows the potter extra clay in which to finish the piece, whatever the finish is going to be. And then, of course, the 4th step is to form it into a vase. And here we have a modern Greek potter at work in his shop in Anthropology. He's in the process of pulling up a tall cylinder. Now note that thickened portion at the top and the marks that his fingers leave as he pulls up the clay. I want to once again direct your attention to that thickened portion, because you're going to see it in the Greek pots. So how did the potters form their vases? No. This is, okay, you're familiar with this piece. It's been shown a number of times. And this is on this side. It's on a hydria in Munich. And it's the shoulder of that hydria that shows all of those pieces, or all of those potters. I mean, all of the pot shop, from the potter all the way down to the kill master who is firing the kill. This is an olpi. It's a slender-bodied type of anakaway, which is a picture of many uses, primarily a black-figured jug that appeared early in the 7th century and was common during the 6th century, especially in the affector's workshop. It was thrown on the potter's wheel, all in one section, from one lump of clay. There is an unbroken, continuous curve from the top of the foot to the mouth, which would indicate that this vase was thrown just in one section. It's really just a cylinder that has been bulged out a little bit to make the shape of the vase. One of the ways to study the forming of Greek vases is to examine the inside of the vase. And when we look at the inside of this Opie fragment, we can see that there are no signs of a join. There's really a smooth transition from what is left of the body at the base of the slide up through the shoulder and into the neck. This large belly amphora, which is one of the earliest amphora shapes, especially modern with the affector potter, also has a continuous curve from foot to the mouth, indicating again that this body was thrown in one section. And looking on the inside of another belly amphora fragment, we can see the potter's finger marks as he pulled the clay upward. While the Greeks carefully smoothed the exterior of their vases where they were decorated, throw marks were generally left on the inside where they could not be seen necessarily. These throw marks run from the base, that's from the bottom of the slide, all the way up into the midsection. They tend to soften up a bit at the shoulder neck area, with no signs of a join anywhere here, indicating that this vase was thrown just in one piece. Now, while throw marks on the inside are evident in many vases, that is not the case with the affector potter. His vases, though they were not signed, were known by their very smooth interiors. But a great many wheel-thrown vases were made in sections, usually in 2, but 3 if it was a very large body. This vase, which is in the British Museum, is a neck amphora. Amphorae were best known as storage containers, often for wine. The vase has an articulated neck shoulder, which the continuous curved vases do not. This vase was made in 2 sections, the body shoulder from one lump of clay and the neck mouth in another. There is a little thin ridge called a fillet right around the join. By the way, the foot of most large vases like amphorae, craters, stamnoi, lutrophoroi, they were made separately and added when the body of the vase had firmed up and was trimmed. And here we have the neck and mouth and a small portion of the shoulder of another neck amphora. And when we upend that fragment and look at the inside, we see the join of the neck to the shoulder. You can also see that obvious bulge. It's a little difficult, but it's down at the bottom of the vase, or of the fragment. And this bulge, that's the thickened portion at the top of the shoulder, which the potter left for stability when first pulling the clay up into a cylinder. And then after the 2 sections were thrown, they were set aside to firm up until they reached a leather hard stage. And then when they were both firm, the neck section was placed on top of the shoulder and join to it. This is a typical type of join, the neck being placed on top of the shoulder. One can see it in vase after vase after vase. And here we have an anakawee. It's a type of pitcher that also has an articulated shoulder, neck. It was made in 2 sections with a fillet around the join. And when we look on the inside of this vase, once again, we can see the bulge. It's a little clearer on this slide, with the neck placed on top of the shoulder. Once again, this can be seen in vase after vase after vase when you're studying them. But there are exceptions, and the lekythos is one. Lekythoi are narrow-necked containers used primarily for storage and pouring of olive oil. This is an early lekythos fragment. And when we turn the fragment over, there is that bulge. You can see it quite easily it's sort of on the outer side. But notice the 2 sections, to join the 2 sections, the neck section is not placed on top of the shoulder as seen in the previous 2 vases. Instead, it is inserted under the shoulder. Now, the potter would have had to add the neck when the shoulder was still somewhat pliable. He would have had to soften the clay around that bulge, spread it a bit in order to insert the neck, and then pull the neck up against the bulge, securing it with slip, and slip is about the consistency of heavy cream. And he then would have finished the outside of the join, as we have seen in previous slides. The later standard canonical lekythos is more slender, with an elongated neck and more delineated cup-like mouth. Olive oil can be poured easily from a thin stream or even drop by drop from this type of mouth. This lekythos, located in the Royal Ontario Museum in Canada, has a white ground painted over the red clay. Many white ground lekythoi were filled with olive oil and placed on the tomb to show respect for the deceased, just as we would place flowers on a grave. The same join technique as for the early lekythos was used. It can be seen in this broken neck mouth. Note the bulge at the top of the shoulder and the neck section inserted under the shoulder, not on top. But there is an interesting turn to the shoulder on this particular lekythos. It appears that clay has been added rather than there being a thickened part on the shoulder. Now, there are examples of other vases, especially amphorae, where potters have folded excess clay, when they have too much excess clay, back over or under itself in constructing the rim of a vase. And this could have been what happened in this particular piece. And there are other interesting construction techniques used by the Greeks. This large white ground lekythos was made in the same manner as the one we saw on previous slides. But it was also used as a grave gift. But note, when viewed through X-ray eyes, you can see a small oil cup made separately and then attached to the underside of the neck before the neck was joined to the shoulder. When the completed lekythos was placed on the tomb, it would appear to have come from a very generous mourner. I mean, you know, ancient Greeks were as familiar with deceptive packaging as we are. And here is another false oil cup that is in Athens, and you can kind of generally see how it is attached to the neck portion. Now, another interesting construction technique has to do with this vase, which is a sicter. The sicter was a wine cooler which floated in a crater to cool the wine. Now, there's a purpose for that narrow base. The sicter was thrown in one piece. The potter pulled up a thick walled cylinder, and that lower stem was left thick to resist tipping over while it was floating, as well as adding support while the body was being extended outward and upward. A sicter was probably the vase that was filled with snow or ice water and placed in a wide-mouthed vase such as this calyx crater, where it floated in the wine until the wine was sufficiently cool. This vase, by the way, shows the god of wine, Dionysus, handing G, the earth goddess, a sacred grapevine. And in Boston, there is this sicter amphora. It's a double vase. It's a different type of wine cooler. Notice the small opening in the center of the shoulder in this slide. An X-ray of this vase, it gives us an idea of how this double vase was constructed. From a large ball of clay, the potter pulled up two cylinders, one within the other. He pulled up the inner cylinder first so that the potter's hands would not be obstructed by an outer wall. And then he pulled up the outer cylinder, and he shaped the outer wall into an amphora, and then shaped the inner wall into the sicter and joined the two vases at the shoulder. And then he added the neck and the mouth, which was thrown separately. Note that not only is there a small spout at the shoulder for pouring the ice water into the cooling space between the vases, but there is also a drain spout just above the foot for draining it. In this vase, the sicter, that is the inner vase, held the wine, and the amphora, the outer vase, which held the water, the ice water. The Getty has an inner vessel, no outer vessel, it's gone. That is a sicter crater, a sicter calyx crater, where the two vessels were not attached at the neck, as seen in this one. Now, we said that the majority of Greek vases were made on the potter's wheel. Some vase types were partially made in the mold, as you have seen in previous talks. The rhyton is a drinking vessel of sort, made in the form. This one is made in the form of a ewe-goat head. The animal head portion of this rhyton was made in a two-piece fired clay mold, each side of the head consisting of one half of the mold. You saw one of those half molds that the gentleman, I'm not sure how you pronounce your name, showed in his slide. The ears and the horns were made separately and added later. Clay was packed into each half of that mold so that it sort of fit the shape of the mold. And then the two pieces of the mold were squeezed together tightly and probably tied so that any excess clay would have had to have gone on the inside. Now, the neck mouth of the rhyton was thrown on the potter's wheel, however. Here's another example of a vase that was partially mold-made. It is a duck ascos. Ascois were used for perfume, maybe honey, oil. The head and the neck portion of this ascos was made in a two-piece mold, as in the last slide, and one for each side of the head and the neck. Only a small portion. Well, you can see, if you look carefully, you can see where it joins the body, any excess clay that might have been, any excess slip that might have oozed out. Only a small portion of the wheel-thrown body remains, but you can see where the head and the neck did join the body. And when we look down into the inside of the lower beak, you can see where the excess clay oozed inside as those two pieces of the mold were squeezed together. The clay cat couldn't go anywhere else, so it had to go on the inside. Note the small hole at the end of the beak. Like when the protom was joined to the body, there was no way for air to escape inside of the head neck to expand during firing, and so to prevent any explosion, the potter made a hole in an inconspicuous place as an escape route. Now, I mentioned earlier that sections of vases were joined with slip. Well, slip is clay that has been watered down to about the consistency of heavy cream or perhaps yogurt. And when coated on pieces that were to be joined, it acts as a good, secure glue. There's just a hint of that oozed out slip on the underside of this foot where it was joined to the potter, to the body. You can see it over on a little bit on the right side. And here is a technique that some potter or one potter used to secure a good join of stem to the Kylex bowl instead of leaving both surfaces flat. This potter made a little depression on one side and a little bulge on the other side so that it would fit down into it, but both surfaces would have been coated with slip. Now, I have said that the foot of certain large vases was made separately and secured to the firmed up vase by slip. Well, this photo shows another technique used by the Greeks to ensure a secure bondage of the foot to the vase. Either concentric circles or spiral grooves were cut into both the bottom of the vase and the top of the foot, and then spread, not with slip, but with gloss, that shiny black material that was used to paint the vases. This is another less used form of glue. And ladies and gentlemen, when the vase construction was completed, it was given to the vase painter for decoration, and voila, a gorgeous creation.